guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is an entitled people story. Once upon a time, my dear friend inherited his parents' house, a beautiful property that he had always loved. The house was situated in an area that had seen better days, but he was determined to renovate it and turn it into his dream home. As the years went by, he put a lot of love and effort into the renovation process, slowly but surely making the house his own. Next door to my friend's house was a neighborhood restaurant, a popular spot that had been around for decades. However, as time went on, the restaurant had started to decline along with the neighborhood. The previous owners had decided to sell the business to a real sleazeball, who had a reputation for being ruthless and unscrupulous. The new owner had his sights set on expanding the restaurant's parking lot, which would require demolishing my friend's house. Instead of making a fair offer, the sleazeball attempted to lowball my friend, assuming that he didn't understand the true value of the property. When my friend countered with a reasonable price, the sleazeball became angry and began to harass him with passive-aggressive behavior. Delivery trucks would block the sidewalk, and new, blindingly bright security lights were installed, aimed directly at my friend's house. The sleazeball also had no qualms about openly expressing his racist views, calling my friend all sorts of derogatory names. To make matters worse, he started spreading lies about my friend to the neighbors, claiming that he was a drunk and had anger issues. All of this was done in an attempt to turn the neighbors against my friend, and it seemed to be working. However, my friend was not one to take things lying down. As a contractor who worked for the city, he had many connections and was on a first-name basis with the local boards. It didn't take long for him to discover that the sleazeball had not filed for the proper permits for his renovations. With a bit of anonymous reporting to the inspectors, the sleazeball was ordered to demolish his new expansion. You'd think that would be the end of it, but there was more to come. The restaurant had not been properly inspected in years, and the city ordered further inspections. Another anonymous report stated that the restaurant was unsanitary, and it failed the health and safety inspection. As a result, the restaurant was condemned as structurally deficient, and the owner was hit with a wave of fines and repair costs. The sleazeball was forced to file for bankruptcy, and the old restaurant was demolished. In the end, my friend got the last laugh, and justice was served. But the story doesn't end there. Several years later, my friend's house had become a beautiful, fully renovated property, and he was living happily in his dream home. One day, he received a call from a local developer who was interested in buying his property. The developer had big plans for the area, and he was willing to offer my friend a very generous sum of money. After some consideration, my friend decided to sell the house and move on to new adventures. But as he watched the developer tear down his old home to make way for a brand new building, he couldn't help but feel a sense of nostalgia and sadness. In a way, he felt like he was saying goodbye to a part of himself, a part of his past that he could never get back. However, he also felt a sense of excitement and anticipation for the future. Who knew what new adventures lay ahead? As he walked away from the demolition site, he felt a renewed sense of hope and possibility, ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead. The next story is titled, "Tease Just the Ocean Salt?" Okay. This was a long time ago when the beaches in Mexico were still decent and not ruined by hotels. Now, there were two beaches my family frequented, as my grandmother lived in town. We usually went to the further beach, as it turned into basically a giant clam farm when the tide went down. My 50 billion cousins and I would get buckets full, then the grups would cook them the next day. This was my favorite part, as I was never fond of the ocean, thanks Jaws. One year, in my mother's infinite wisdom, we went to the closer beach because they just didn't feel like driving to the good beach. I, being a typical 14-year-old, started whining to my mom the minute I saw the first of what would be many broken bottles. I whined about the seaweed on the shore that was stinky and right next to our setup. I tried to play in the sand, but people kept throwing things, in one case, an entire dog, into my castles. Ultimately, I decided to get into the water where my mom had gone, which is where I made my mistake. After only a few minutes, I began to feel a kind of pinprick on my arm. I saw a bunch of small fish around me, so I dismissed it as the fish swimming by me. I went over close to where my mom was and felt it again, but now it kind of hurt for a bit. I swished my arms around, and it stopped, but I didn't see anything besides the tiny fish. I told my mom, "I think something is biting me." My mom says, "Oh, it's just the salt, you're fine. That's why I keep telling you to put lotion on. Your skin is so dry. I've never been hurt by salt before, Mom. Then just ignore it. There's nothing biting you. I know you don't like this beach, but don't ruin it. We're just trying to enjoy the day, and no one else is complaining about bites." I go into petty mode and just stare at her as I remain perfectly still. It didn't take long until I felt those bites again, but now I was going to ignore it. So, I just stood there for several minutes, just staring at her, until the pain turned into burning, and the burning turned into agony. Did I panic? Nope. I ever so slowly got closer to my mom until she got startled at how close I was. Then, like frozen molasses in January, I lifted my arm and said, "Hey, I caught some salt." There, on my arm, was a small bunch of what looked like brown and white striped string, and it was burning the shape of its body onto my swelling arm, right in front of our eyes. A bunch of baby sea nettles, jellyfish, were stinging me and were pretty much invisible until they were out of the water. My mom swatted my arm and shouted for everyone to get out of the water. It wasn't a stampede of cousins or anything, but everyone looked at me to see what happened. We spent the next hour wasting our popsicles on my arm as the burning went on for quite some time. Of course, me being me, I had to ask my mom if there was salt in the popsicles. It didn't stop them from going to that beach, but the next time they went, it was the season for the moon jellyfish, which wash up on the shore and completely cover the beach, making it really dangerous for children and dogs alike. The time after that, there were so many people, and so much that my cousin almost stepped on a small pile of broken beer bottles and used syringes. I never went back. Not sure if this falls under being petty or malicious compliance, so I'll let you decide. Edit. So, just to answer a few recurring questions. No, we didn't leave. Because I was still breathing, no limbs missing on this gal. They soaked the towel in the beer cooler water and wrapped my arm until we left. They cut some aloe and put that on it when we got back. Yes, I'm probably wrong about the moon jellies, but they look like them, just small and transparent with a blue tint. Yes, they sting a lot of dogs' noses. Yes, they really did throw a dog. Think drunken hot potato but with a small angry chihuahua, and the loser gets the business end of him. No, he wasn't hurt. Yes, they regretted it later after losing some leg skin. Yes, my mom was mortified, and I got a chancla to the head later for the popsicle dig. I wouldn't have done it if I hadn't known how she would react. My mom and I always fought. She would say I was lying when there was no reason and no advantage to lie. We also had some savage snark battles as I got older. Now my dad was downright abusive, so when he was out of town, we would be at war, but she never beat me. She died of a brain tumor in 2011, and goddammit if my last conversation with her wasn't a flipping argument. That salty, wonderful bitch. The next story is titled Am I a Bad Daughter? So, this happened about 30 minutes ago, and I thought maybe I should make a post on Reddit because I've seen people do that here for advice, opinions. I'm a university student, 18F, and was in my hometown at my parents' place for a family event. I was initially going back this weekend after spending some time with my family, but they did some things that lead to me going back today. My relationship with my parents, especially my dad, isn't the best. I even went to NC with him for some months before my mom guilt tripped me into talking to him again. In the beginning, after we started talking again, it was all good and he was nicer. But that eventually changed, and he started emotionally and mentally abusing me again. And if he could, he would have hurt me physically too had I lived closer. And then my parents asked me why I chose to study in a city 6 hours away. This has been going on for years and years, where my dad hurts me, my mom enables his behavior and guilt trips me into apologizing because he's going through stuff. I tried to be understanding as much as I could, but it's just, one day I had enough because literally everyone was telling me how I need to be more understanding of my dad's condition. He has depression and some mental health disorders that I won't mention. I feel bad for my father, I really do. I swear I feel empathy. But I don't understand how everyone can completely disregard my feelings just because I'm not vocal about them. Even my dad's sisters tell me how I need to be better. I was diagnosed with BD some months ago and I haven't told my parents because I know they will just blame me for it. A big part of me blames my father for it because he literally lashes out 1 second and then bombs us with love and apologies the next. You would think my dad would be more understanding since we're going through the same thing, but all he does is tell me how it's not possible for me to have any mental health issues because I'm just 18 and that it's just a phase that I'll grow out of. According to him, only people in their 40s could be depressed. The logic behind that? I don't understand. Anyway, back to the post. So I was here with hopes that maybe I would finally be able to bond with my parents since I hadn't seen them in 4 months. That's the longest we've gone without meeting. My relationship with my mom got a lot better after I moved for university, and we used to talk on call every day. I felt like she was the best friend I never had. I was excited to see her. But all my resentment came back after I saw how she still enables my dad's behavior and lets him treat her like crap. I felt like I was walking on eggshells around my father because he got mad at everything I did. The speed of my fan, my coffee intake, what time I woke up, he got triggered with everything. He dragged me by my hair at 7 a.m. because I wasn't up on time even though I had slept at 2 a.m. because of the event. My mom refused to say anything because she didn't want to take sides. Eventually she had to intervene because my dad forced her to. She told me that I need to suck it up because it's just a few days. I was shocked. University is so busy, I don't even get time to poop. Here I thought maybe I could rest when I'm home, like a little vacation from all the stress. I was wrong. And not to forget the fact that my mom had been fat-shaming me in front of my cousins the previous day because I couldn't find anything to wear for the event that she approved of. I bought like 3 outfits to choose from, and she rejected all of them and then complained how I'd be the only one who wouldn't match everyone with their sparkly outfits. She told me how better I looked last year because I was slim. Mind you, I was fighting a food disorder back then which led me to completely stop eating. I'm a lot better now because I try to eat healthier. Last night I decided that all of this was too much and that I need to leave or else I'd lose all the progress I'm having in my mental health. I made up an excuse of a presentation and told my parents that I need to go back. My paternal grandmother was devastated to say the least. She's the sweetest human on this planet, and if it wasn't for her, I'd be starving in uni. I wanted to spend more time with her, and it broke my heart that I had to leave, but I didn't feel like I had a choice. So today, in the morning while I was getting ready, I asked my mom if she knew about any stores for slippers nearby because I needed a pair. Everything in the big city is really expensive, so I thought I could buy one before leaving. She said no. I asked her if she's sure because I'm 100% sure that she was lying. She's been in this town for 20+ years and I'm sure as hell she knew every spot here. She got mad that I'm not trusting her even though I was very polite when I asked if she's sure. I don't know what happened, but she suddenly lashed at me and tried to hit me with a knife and told me, "I hope you're met with an accident and die on your way back because you're pos." I was confused as to why she suddenly lost her temper. She kept screaming obscenities, called me names and how I'm a disappointment to her and that I'm the reason she has problems in her marriage. I just left the room. In a few hours, I was all set to leave. I hugged my grandmother, and she cried in my arms. I felt so bad for her because I know my dad is abusive towards her too. I want to help her so bad, I just IDK how. Now my dad forcefully hugged me and told me how things were difficult in his times and how I need to be grateful for him. I'm financially dependent on him even though I don't want to be because I can't work due to health issues and university stress. And then my mom expectantly looked at me, waiting for me to hug her. I didn't. Her mother, my maternal grandmother, told me how common it is to have conflict with your parents and that you should never take it to heart. She went on to tell me how lucky I am to have her as my mom. I looked at them and said, "Oh, don't worry, I'm going to have an accident and then she can hug my dead body all she wants." I know I went too far with that, and I felt so bad after being so harsh. My mother, on hearing this, started crying and my dad started telling me how big of a disappointment I am and how I need to KMS already. They made me hug my mom and her mother even said, "Though you're a horrible daughter, you still have such loving parents. And you need to know how lucky you are." And IDEC. I know my mom loves me and she can be harsh, but I feel like my anger was justified because she was so mean to me earlier. So, am I a bad daughter? Because everyone else thinks I am. The next story is titled 10K in Damages over a 10-cent Overcharge. This happened a few years ago when I was working at a large upscale beauty supply. Wigs, weaves, etc. Our register was a bit old-fashioned, so we had to punch in some items by hand. Usually not a big deal, but definitely left some room for human error. One day, a woman came in and my coworker pressed the wrong button and overcharged her by 10 cents. My coworker instantly realized what happened, and refunded her the money and gave her a few full-size free samples. But upon hearing that her refund would take a few days to process, the woman flew into a fit. At this point, I, being the manager, came over and tried to smooth things over. I offered her 10 cents directly from the register. She refused. She wanted the money in her account immediately. At this point, she was screaming loud enough the entire store pretty much stopped operating. Every customer in the store was focused on the drama. The customer wouldn't leave, wouldn't take a cash refund, and only wanted a direct deposit of 10 cents in her account immediately. Then the lady starts screaming about how Chinese people are all thieves. I tell the lady I was born in VA, and she responds by telling me I came on a boat. At this point, I see no possible peaceful resolution, so I leave her with the assistant manager and head to the back to call the cops. While I'm in the back, I hear a sudden crashing sound followed by gasps. I run back out to the front and see the woman has knocked over an entire cosmetics display, breaking most of the products and damaging the display itself, while still screaming over 10 cents. She was dragged out of the store by the police, and we ended up suing, and winning, for around 10K in damages. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.